Good day, everybody. I'm Chapman Chan. Today, I'm going to talk about the Hong Kong Autonomy Movement. Hong Kong City-State Autonomy Movement, abbreviated Hong Kong HKAM, is a local consciousness movement initiated by Professor Wen Qin and his Facebook group in mid-2011. Inheriting Hong Kong's 150 years tradition of city-state autonomy and based on the Basic Law, this movement aims at putting into actual practice the one country, two systems of Hong Kong, and urges the Hong Kong government to give priority to Hong Kong interests rather than China interests when dealing with internal affairs of Hong Kong. Recently, Hong Kong witnessed quite a few events which compromised its autonomy. For example, many pregnant women flooding Hong Kong in order to give birth here and snatch Hong Kong social welfare benefits, or China interfering with the Hong Kong chief executive election earlier this year, or the gradual replacement of Cantonese with Mandarin as the medium of instruction of the Chinese subject at school in Hong Kong. The icon employed by Hong Kong HKAM is this dragon lion flag. Now we can see that this dragon represents Chinese viability and flexibility, while this lion represents British bravery and British justice. As a whole, this flag signifies that Hong Kong organically combines the best parts of these two traditions, and that Hong Kong has already become a great civilization in itself. Only Hong Kong is the real China, for only Hong Kong has inherited Han pronunciations, that is Cantonese rather than Mandarin, Cantonese being far more refined and time-honored than Mandarin, and Han characters, that is traditional rather than simplified characters, and Han customs, for example Confucian ethics and Mid-Autumn and Chongyang festivals. Most of these things are already dead on the Chinese mainland. Admittedly, this flag was a former colonial emblem, but reinterpreted by Hong Kong HKAM, it now pertains to Hong Kong only. As aforementioned, this flag symbolizes the 150-year-old city-state setup of Hong Kong. Now, what is a city-state? Even though a city may be under an empire, it is a city-state if it has its own law, its own language, its own postal service, its own civil service, its own council, its own language, its own currency, its own economic, educational, and social policies, and its own landscape. Overseas examples of city-state include Athens in ancient Greece, the Hanseatic League in the 16th century, Singapore under British rule, the Shanghai Concession before 1949, contemporary Barcelona, North Ireland, and Quebec. Judging from these criteria, Hong Kong undoubtedly has been a city-state since it was ceded to the UK 170 years ago. the Hong Kong Basic Law just continues this autonomous tradition. City-state autonomy is thus not a gift granted by Communist China to Hong Kong. Provided that Hong Kong people have enough local consciousness, Hong Kong autonomy should be able to persist even after 2046. Hong Kong autonomy movement is not an independence movement because it is based on the basic law. Any expansion of Hong Kong's autonomy beyond the scope stipulated in the basic law has to be authorized by the Peking government first. Should Communist China disintegrate, Hong Kong people will then decide whether Hong Kong should become a state on its own or not. Some people say that the basic law is just a trick used by Communist China to coax Hong Kong people, that it cannot be taken seriously. But as it is an agreement signed in black and white by the Chinese government, we precisely want to turn what is make-believe into reality. The chance of Hong Kong AM's success is very high because it is not only good for Hong Kong but also intriguing for Communist China. China badly needs Hong Kong for fundraising, for foreign exchange arbitrage, for internationalization of renminbi, that is the Chinese yuan, for money laundering, etc. and etc. City-state autonomy in accordance with the basic law will recover dignity for Hong Kong as well as reap huge profits for Hong Kong. For instance, when Hong Kong economy becomes autonomous and breaks the Hong Kong US dollar peg, Hong Kong people will get rich. Further, when Hong Kong property tycoons are properly rooted in Hong Kong, they will reorientate their strategies and stop monotonizing Hong Kong economy and sabotaging the landscape of Hong Kong. What is the difference between Hong Kong AM and existing Hong Kong political parties? Giving priority to local interests is supposed to be the prerequisite for any local political party. But most pro-democracy parties in Hong Kong are mystified by the democratic unification theory, which binds Hong Kong democracy to China democracy. This means that Hong Kong will never be able to enjoy democracy unless and until China has democracy. This theory is very unrealistic and very dangerous. For what means do these parties possess to liberate China? So much the more should China become democratized within a short period of time, it is likely to transform into a fascist nationalistic country. Given its weak foundation of rule of law and low standard of general morality, then it may cancel the one country, two systems of Hong Kong overnight and forfeit its reserve of 200 billion euro in order to cope with the imminent financial crisis of China. Hong Kong men may be conscripted and Hong Kong women may be required to provide sex service for the National Army of China. In addition, when Communist China breaks up into pieces, warlords from southern China may invade Hong Kong if Hong Kong does not remain an international autonomous city-state. Moreover, certain left-wing elements in Hong Kong often say that blood is thicker than water, and Hong Kong people are supposed to care for their mainland compatriots. To this, we reply, we are civilized people. We drink living water and brown rice milk rather than blood. In fact, Hong Kong Chinese and mainland Chinese are two different ethnic groups. We have different languages, different norms, different ethical codes, and different cultural identities. Regarding atrocities of unspeakable savagery in China, Hong Kong people can only be sympathetic, while river water and well water are not supposed to interfere with each other. The poison of the totalitarian regime in China is like the radioactivity of Fukushima. It is going to haunt the soil of the Chinese mainland for centuries. The Chinese Communist Party was not invited by Hong Kong citizens. Hong Kong has neither the obligation nor the ability to rescue China. Internationally speaking, as Hong Kong has always served as the bridge between China and the West economically, culturally, and politically, Hong Kong autonomy is in the interests of Western countries. In particular, the UK has signed the Sino-British Joint Declaration, and the US government has drafted the US Hong Kong Policy Act 1992. These two countries are supposed to make sure that Hong Kong retains and develops its autonomy as enshrined in the Basic Law. Specific policies advocated by the Hong Kong autonomy movement include immediate practice of universal suffrage, rebuilding high-quality public housing estates, buying back the linked real estate investment, resolving real estate hegemony, resuscitating Hong Kong industry and agriculture, retrieving the power of approval of immigration, reviewing the Basic Law, replacing brainwashing patriotic education with civic education, protecting Hong Kong Cantonese culture and language, reinforcing financial and currency sovereignty, etc. and etc. For details, please visit the website and Facebook account of Hong Kong Autonomy Movement as follows. In a word, Hong Kong autonomy, good for the global community. Thank you for watching. Wish you peace and joy. Goodbye.